While everybody is talking about why vitamin D is so good for us, I'm starting to look at the opposite and why vitamin D might be dangerous for us. You see, every time big industry or food marketing starts talking about the benefits of something, I usually get out my microscope and start taking a closer look and start going the opposite direction. And what I started to uncover is pretty interesting. But they do have one thing right. Vitamin D is important. Okay? Vitamin D is imperative when it comes down to absorbing calcium. And calcium is important. We need it. We need it for healthy bones, for healthy teeth, for healthy functions of the body. But what we don't want is extra calcium floating around doing all kinds of crazy things. And although vitamin D helps with the absorption of calcium, it may not be helping us direct it to where it needs to go. Thing is, vitamin D3 does so much more than just build bones. It helps with the brain, it helps with immune function, it helps with muscle function. It can even help develop the heart and lungs quite a bit better. So we have to look at a much bigger equation in what vitamin D does. But what's really important is we follow the three-step equation that is critical to making sure that vitamin D is useful and not super, super dangerous. So let me tell you a little bit about this three-step process because this is very important if you're going to get the benefit of D3 and not the cons of D3. You see, it comes down to the next step, which is vitamin K2. Now, vitamin K2 is a fat-soluble vitamin that is actually created by our bodies. It's created by bacteria in our gut. That sounds wild, but it's the truth. And what that vitamin K does is essentially help direct the calcium even further. So think of it like this. Vitamin D3 allows the body to absorb calcium. Then vitamin K2 is sort of the traffic cop that allows that calcium to go to the right place, allows it to go to the bones and not go into the arteries or not calcify in places that it shouldn't. So in short essence, vitamin K2 keeps vitamin D3 from working against you. That's step one. It actually does it through a pretty cool mechanism though. It does it by increasing something that's called osteocalcin. And that osteocalcin sort of attracts the calcium to the right place. So it makes it so that it doesn't stick to the arterial walls, but it actually goes into the bone and sticks to the bone where it should. Otherwise, calcium can float around and it can develop into arteriosclerosis or atherosclerosis, or even end up in our joints that can potentially trigger some inflammation on down the line. And I'll get to more on that in just a minute. But first, I have to emphasize quite a bit stronger that without vitamin K2, vitamin D3 could cause calcium to wreak havoc on your body. Calcium is excitatory, and when it's not controlled, it may cause some serious issues. So what's the next step? I said it was a three-step process. Yep, we've got the vitamin D to help the calcium, then we've got the vitamin K2 to help the vitamin D, but let's break it down even further, and this is where it's so critical. And it's such a small piece to most people, but it's that small piece that fans out to a huge impact on the body. Talking about the different kinds of vitamin K that you will see in a typical supplement. Usually, you'll see MK4, but there's also another one that's called MK7. You see, MK4 is a synthetic version of vitamin K, and it's not super bioavailable. You see, the half-life is very, very short, meaning it only works for a short amount of time. Whereas MK7, the natural form that is actually made from bacterial fermentation of a Japanese soy plant, believe it or not, has a much longer half-life, which means that it is working for a longer period of time. In essence, it looks something like this. You take some vitamin D3, and it has some K2. Maybe it has the MK4 version, the short version. That means it's going to help you absorb calcium in the right way for a short amount of time, but after that, it's just going to go back to doing what it normally does. But if you have MK7, the natural version that is actually made from bacterial fermentation, you have a much longer half-life, which means that that positive effect of the K2 and the D3 is going on for a longer period of time. There was one study that took Japanese women. One group of Japanese women, they gave 420 micrograms of MK4, and one group of women, they gave 420 micrograms of MK7. What they found is that the group that took the MK4 had almost no detectable levels of MK4 in their bloodstream, whereas those that took the MK7 still had significant amounts of MK7 in their bloodstream 2 days later. So that's just a testament to the overall half-life of MK7 and thereby its potential effect on vitamin D3. I think I've scared you enough, and I've given you the tactics, I've given you the steps that you need to take when looking for the right kind of D3. Let me tell you the serious benefits and how this can really work for you in so many ways that a lot of people aren't talking about. We hear about atherosclerosis, we hear about the arterial health, we hear about all that. What about joint health? You see, if you have rogue calcium, it can go a lot of places, not just into the arteries. It can go into the joints, and that can mean calcification of the joints. When you have that calcification, that may very well trigger an inflammatory response that may trigger inflammation further on down the line. And if you've seen my other videos, you know that inflammation is not exactly a good thing when it's in a chronic state. So by directing the calcium to the right place, especially using MK7, you're able to keep that calcium from depositing in the wrong places like the joints and thereby potentially reducing some joint pain. That's a benefit of D3 that a lot of people don't realize. Now, the next one is a big one. And let me preface this with, I'm not a doctor, because what I'm going to tell you is going to blow your mind. But I have to say, this is not a cure for cancer, but the impact that vitamin K2, when properly absorbed, can have on cancer is nothing short of amazing. You see, what happens is it triggers a DNA-degrading protein that cancer normally suppresses. Here I am talking about all this sciencey stuff, but let me make it simple. When you have cancer, normally there's a DNA-degrading protein that would begin to take over the tumor and break it down. But the simple fact of having a tumor in and of itself suppresses that protein. So therefore, it ends up making it somewhat null and void. Well, vitamin K2 actually increases that protein again so that the cancer cell can potentially be fought off. Now, in addition to that, cancer cells are very glycolytic. What that really means is they like sugar. They like sugar a lot. You've probably heard that in a lot of videos, or maybe you've read about it before if you're reading into cancer. So those tumors like sugar, which means they have a lot of oxidative stress. Now, oxidative stress can actually be a good thing when it comes to killing off a tumor. And what K2 can do is help direct the oxidative stress right to the funneled point of that cell directly, meaning it can cause the tumor to stop growing. It can sort of freeze its cell cycle. Now again, I'm not a doctor and I'm not saying this is a cure for cancer, but the fact that we are looking at some very preventative measures against cancer and tumor growth is absolutely earth-shattering to me. So that's why I don't always believe what food marketing, what the industry is telling us. For so long, we put vitamin D in milk, but not having the other science to back it up. Just saying we need calcium, we need vitamin D, but never really explaining the full story. So that's why I'm in front of you today trying to educate as much as I can about the full process, the full scientific process that's happening in your body to make sure that you stay healthy. Now, additionally, I sit on the clinical advisory board for a company by the name of PuraTHRIVE. Now, PuraTHRIVE is one of the leaders when it comes to liposomal research, and they now have a vitamin D3, K2, MK7 blend with a liposomal delivery that can help the absorption of all those vitamins so that you can get the most out of your life and get the most out of your diet and get the most out of your family. So check it out. Be sure to click on the link and take a look at how the vitamin D3 and K2 combination may just be what you need to take your health to that next level and truly take back control of what truly is yours. I'll see you on the next page. I'll see you in the next video here with PuraTHRIVE Nutrition.